The story begins in the land of Egypt, a place of towering pyramids and golden sands, where power and beauty often walked hand in hand. In the grand palace of a mighty minister, a young man named Yousuf lived, a man whose face carried the light of prophethood, whose presence stirred whispers wherever he went. He was not just any man, he was Yousuf, the beloved son of Yaqub, chosen by Allah for a destiny greater than he could imagine. But this story is not just about Yousuf. It is about a woman whose name would forever be tied to his, a woman of high status, of breathtaking beauty, and of a desire so fierce it would nearly bring a kingdom to its knees. Some call her Zuleikha, the wife of the Aziz of Egypt. Others remember her as the woman who tried to seduce a prophet. It all began when Yousuf was brought to the palace as a slave, sold by his own brothers out of jealousy. Yet, even in chains, his nobility shone. The Aziz, the High Minister of Egypt, saw something special in him and took him into his household. Allah will bless us because of this boy, he told his wife. Little did he know how deeply Yousuf's presence would affect her. Days turned into months, and Yousuf grew into a man of striking beauty, so much so that the women of the city would whisper and giggle when he passed. But none were as captivated as Zuleikha. She watched him from behind silk curtains, her heart beating faster each time he walked by. At first, she told herself it was mere admiration, but soon, admiration turned to obsession. One evening, when the palace was quiet and the moon hung low, she called for him. "Yousuf," she said, her voice like honey. "Come to my chambers. I have something to discuss with you." Yousuf, ever obedient to the household, went, but he carried with him the fear of Allah. When he entered, he found her dressed in the finest silks, her hair loose, her eyes burning with desire. The doors closed behind him. "Come closer," she whispered. But Yousuf, his heart trembling, turned away. "I seek refuge in Allah. My master has treated me with kindness. How could I betray him? And how could I disobey my Lord?" His words were firm, but Zuleikha's desire was fiercer. She rushed toward him, grabbing his shirt. In that moment, Yousuf turned to flee, but she held on tightly, so tightly that his garment tore as he pulled away. Just then, the door burst open. There stood the Aziz, his face dark with shock. Zuleikha, quick as a viper, pointed at Yousuf. "What is the punishment for one who tried to dishonor your wife?" she demanded. Yousuf, breathless, could only say, "It was she who sought to seduce me." A servant, hidden in the shadows, spoke up. "If his shirt is torn from the front, then she speaks the truth. But if it is torn from the back, then he was fleeing, and she is lying." The Aziz examined the garment, and there it was. The tear was from behind. The truth was clear. Yet, instead of punishing his wife, the Aziz sighed. "Yousuf, keep this matter hidden," he said. Then, turning to Zuleikha, he warned, "Seek forgiveness. This was indeed your fault." But Zuleikha's pride would not let her surrender. She gathered the noble women of the city and invited them to a lavish banquet. As they sat, laughing and eating, she had golden plates placed before them. And then, at her signal, Yousuf was made to enter. The moment the women saw him, their hands froze. So great was his beauty that they gasped. Some even cut their own fingers with their knives without realizing it. "This is no mortal man," one whispered. Zuleikha smirked. "You see now why I could not resist?" But instead of justifying her sin, the women only murmured, "Allah protect us. This is a noble angel." Humiliated, Zuleikha vowed to have Yousuf punished. If she could not possess him, no one would. And so, using her influence, she saw to it that Yousuf was thrown into prison, a dark, lonely place where even the sun seemed afraid to enter. But Allah had a greater plan. For in that prison, Yousuf would rise again, not as a slave, not as a prisoner, but as the savior of Egypt. And Zuleikha? Her story was not over yet, for when years passed and famine struck the land and kings bowed before Yousuf's wisdom, she would return, older, wiser, and finally humbled before the man she once desired. But that is another tale. For now, remember this. The story of Yousuf and Zuleikha is not just about temptation. It is about the power of faith, the danger of desire, and the truth that no matter how dark the night, the righteous will always find their way to the light. And so ends the story of the woman who tried to seduce Yousuf, A.S. But his legacy, his unbreakable trust in Allah, lives on forever.